The cargo bay of Station Helio 7 reeked of burnt metal and desperation. Dozens of species huddled in corners, refugees from the Vrex invasion that had swept through the outer rim like a plague. Among them, a draconian mother clutched her daughter, close, her iridescent scales dulled by exhaustion and fear. "Mama, don't cry," little Sharon whispered, her small claws gently touching her mother's face. At only 6 cycles old, her wings were barely developed, translucent membranes that trembled with each breath. "Maybe that human will help us." She pointed one tiny claw toward a figure hunched over a battered starship engine in the corner. Jason didn't look like much. Certainly not like the fearsome warriors from the Galactic Defense Force who'd abandoned this station 3 rotations ago. He wore grease-stained coveralls, his dark hair stuck up at odd angles, and he was muttering curses at a plasma coil that sparked dangerously in his hands. Sharon's mother, Kalara, followed her daughter's gaze and felt her heart sink further. "Humans are just mechanics and traitors, little Flame. They're not fighters. They can't help us." It was common knowledge throughout the galaxy. Humans were useful for their clever hands and strange ability to make broken things work again. But they were weak. No natural armor, no claws, no venom, no telepathy. When the Vrex came with their biomechanical horrors, even the mighty Kandorians with their 4 arms and battle heritage had fallen. What could a single human do? But Sharon was already walking toward him, her tail dragging behind her, leaving a small trail in the dust. "Little one, come back," Kalara hissed, but her daughter was determined. Jason looked up as a shadow fell across his workbench. He blinked at the small dragon girl staring at him with eyes like liquid gold. Her scales were a pale blue, pretty even under the grime of refugee life. "Hey there, kiddo," he said, setting down his tools. "You okay?" "The bad things are coming," Sharon said simply. "Mama says you can't help because you're just human. But I think you can fix things. Can you fix the bad things?" Jason's jaw tightened. He'd heard the Vrex were only hours away. Station Command had already evacuated, leaving the refugees behind because there weren't enough ships. He'd stayed because, well, someone had to try to get the old defense turrets working again. "I'm working on it, sweetie," he said, then glanced past her at the dozens of faces watching him. Draconians, Quilfins, Zentari, even a few Hivekin. All of them had the same expression. Fear mixed with the terrible resignation of those who'd already accepted death. Something hot and stubborn flared in Jason's chest. The thing about humans that the galaxy never quite understood. They were spite made flesh. "Your mama's right about one thing," Jason said, standing up and grabbing his toolkit. "I am just a mechanic, but you know what mechanics do? We make things work that everyone else has given up on." He strode toward the station's control room, Sharon following like a small, scaled shadow. Her mother rushed after them, protesting. "Human, what are you doing?" "My name's Jason," he called back, "and I'm going to teach you something about humans. We're really, really bad at accepting the inevitable." The control room was a disaster. Half the panels were dark, the weapon systems offline. According to the diagnostics, the station's shields were at 7% and dropping. The Vrex fleet would arrive in 90 minutes. Jason cracked his knuckles and got to work. His fingers flew across panels, rerouting power, bypassing safety. Protocols that had been written by species far too sensible to try what he was attempting. He pulled covers off conduits and started hot wiring systems that were never meant to connect. "This is insane," Kalara breathed, watching him work. "Those systems will overload. You'll destroy the station." "Maybe," Jason said, not looking up. "But we're dead anyway if I don't try. See, that's the human advantage. We're too stupid to know when we're beaten." Sharon climbed onto a chair beside him, watching with fascination as sparks flew and Jason's hands moved with the surety of someone who'd been taking things apart and putting them back together since childhood. "Why do you help us?" Sharon asked. "We're not your people." Jason paused, just for a moment, and looked at the little dragon girl. "Kid, I'm human. That means every underdog is my people. It's kind of our thing." He slammed a final connection into place, and the lights throughout the control room blazed to life. Every screen flickered on, showing the Vrex fleet approaching. 12 massive bioships, their hulls writhing with organic weaponry. "Okay," Jason muttered, pulling up the weapons grid. Here's what your species never figured out about humans. We didn't evolve with natural weapons, we had to build everything. And that means we got really creative about breaking things. His hands danced across the controls. The station's old mining lasers, designed for cutting asteroids, hummed to life. The cargo tethers meant for moving freight began rotating on their axes. Even the atmospheric processors started charging up, their energy signatures shifting. You're using civilian equipment as weapons, Kalara said, understanding dawning in her eyes. Every tool is a weapon if you're desperate enough, Jason replied. And humans? We've had a lot of practice being desperate. The Vrex fleet entered weapons range, their biocannons charged, ready to reduce the station to debris. Jason pressed the firing sequence. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The mining lasers, overcharged and focused through the station's sensor array, punched through Vrex shielding like it was paper. The cargo tethers, moving at speeds that would have torn apart any cargo, wrapped around bioships and slammed them into each other, and the atmospheric processors, running in reverse and venting directly at the enemy fleet, created plasma clouds that ignited in beautiful, terrible explosions. In 7 minutes, 12 Vrex ships became expanding clouds of debris. The control room was silent except for the beeping of cooling systems and Jason's ragged breathing. He slumped in the chair, hands shaking from adrenaline. Sharon climbed into his lap and hugged him, her small arms barely reaching around his chest. "You fixed it," she whispered. "You fixed the bad things." Jason hugged her back, feeling the tremor of relief run through every refugee in the room. "Yeah, kiddo, I guess I did." Kalara approached slowly, her eyes shining with something that looked like wonder. "Human, Jason, my people have a saying. Fire recognizes fire. I thought humans were weak. I was wrong. You burn differently than we do, but you burn just as bright." Jason smiled tiredly. "We're not stronger or tougher than anyone else out here. We just have a really hard time giving up. Sometimes that's enough." Sharon looked up at him, her golden eyes reflecting the stars outside the viewport. "Will you teach me to fix things, Jason? I want to be like humans. I want to make broken things work again." "Sure thing, little dragon," Jason said, ruffling the small ridge on her head. "First lesson? Never let anyone tell you something can't be done, especially if they're being reasonable about it. Reasonable is boring." As rescue ships began arriving, drawn by the massive energy signatures from the battle, Sharon stayed close to Jason. She'd remember this day forever, the day she learned that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their strength. It was their absolute refusal to accept defeat, even when defeat was the only logical option. Especially then.